Hello everybody and welcome back to art. Alright, today we're going to go ahead and jump right in. You're going to need a pencil, some scissors, your chalk that we've used before. A brush might come in handy. Don't worry, we're not painting, but we will maybe brush out some of the chalk here in a little bit. You will also need a white piece of construction paper and a black piece of construction paper. Now, I'll just tell you right now, you can decide which one you want to use to cut stuff up with. Or you can use as the background color. I'm going to go ahead and use the black one as a background color, and then the white one I'm going to use to draw stuff and kind of cut up different shapes. But you can kind of choose either one that you want to do. Alright, so the first thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to set the black piece, since that's my background piece that I'm not going to be using right now, and I'm going to go ahead and get started with drawing some shapes. Okay, so if you want some shapes that we've practiced before at school, you can even start with just a simple triangle shape like this. Alright, you could even take that a little further and go to an inside triangle. Right, there's another triangle on the inside of that triangle. Okay, what we can do here is keep that in mind. We will be cutting a lot of this stuff out. Okay, so it doesn't have to be perfect by any means. You could even do a circle. If you would like to find a bottle cap or something that you can trace, you could do that. Again, you can come back in and do another circle on the inside that you could cut out, but simple shapes are fine too. You could even do some kind of wonky, wacky shapes if you want. Just make them up as you go, okay? But remember, anywhere that you draw, you're going to have to cut out. You could do flower kind of shapes. Draw a circle, draw some flower kind of shapes. Again, this is for you to experiment on your own with what you're comfortable with. So, continuing with the flower shapes, some pointy flowers. And you can fill this paper with different shapes that you are going to want to use here in a little bit. Now again, you can kind of make them wonky, or a little bit more crisp and clean. Okay, you could do wonky rectangles. Okay, I could come back in and do another one on the inside that I could cut out if I want. But basically what you're going to be doing is, after you've drawn some of the shapes, you're going to take your scissors, carefully cut along those lines. Right? Remember, we move the paper, not the scissor hand. The scissor hand can stay straight doing this, while your paper hand that's holding it can turn the paper. So watch this. This hand's not going to move. I'm going to move this hand. I turn the paper, and then I'm just cutting straight again. Okay? Then I have this. Now, if you're looking to cut the inside portion of that triangle out, what you can do is fold it, snip it. You might have to have your mom or dad help you with these scissors, okay? So be careful. And then you get in there real carefully, and you can cut out the inside of that triangle shape. So then you have a triangle with a cutout of another triangle on the inside. Now what you can do here is, if you were careful, you can even save this triangle, and that's a small triangle, okay? But right now we have a cutout of a triangle. So remember, we're going to save all of those shapes. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and take this, using my scissors again, and be cutting out all of these shapes. No problem here. Alright, as I'm taking scissors, remember, I'm moving my paper hand, not really necessarily my scissor hand. Okay, I'm saving all my shapes, even the wonky ones over here. Alright. See, I have all of the shapes that I have cut out before, and I saved some of the other ones. This piece was just one that I was able to cut, that I saw kind of hanging on from the side, so I just cut it off. So now I have a square shape. You can always come back in if you feel like you want to some other shapes that are just kind of simple like this. I'm going to go ahead and do a big shape like this. I'm going to use what's already there. Go ahead and take scissors, and I'm going to cut along that. So now I have a kind of pointy, long shape like this. All right. So now the next step is to take that background paper, and you can decide if you want it portrait style, okay, this way, or landscape style, this way. All right, so vertical or horizontal. Totally up to you. I'm gonna go ahead and put mine down so that you can see it this way. And I'm gonna go ahead and get my pieces ready as well as my chalk. So I'm gonna go ahead and open up my chalk. Now you guys have used this stuff before. It does break kind of easy, so like mine broke the last time I used it, mine broke, and that's okay. But basically what you're gonna do is have all of your chalk to where you can see what kind of colors you wanna use. And this is more of like an abstract kind of picture portrait kind of thing. So you guys can kind of choose the colors that you want and the shapes that you want as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and pick up, let's say, this shape first. I'm gonna go ahead and put it down. I'm gonna find a spot for it. I'm gonna take my chalk, I'm gonna hold it down with my finger, and I'm going to color all the way around the outside edges, just like this. So I'm coloring directly on top of the white cutout, and I'm coloring onto the paper as I'm pressing down with my hand so that the flower doesn't move around, like this. If you have tape and you want to tape it on the back side of it, you can, but you run the risk of ripping your paper whenever you peel that tape up later. So I would just recommend you just be very careful, hold it with your finger, and you kind of brush like this. Brush it all the way around. No problem. All right, now that you have that brushed, what you can do is you can take this paintbrush, the dry paintbrush, and you can actually brush it even further out onto your paper like this to make it a smooth transition. Like this, those brush strokes all the way off on your paper. And then you can carefully lift it up, and you are left with the outline of what was there before. Okay, so that's pretty cool. Now what you can do is for the next one, let's say you want to try this cool looking triangle. Let's go ahead and put it down. I'm gonna go ahead and choose some blue, and I'm gonna do the same thing, but this one might be a little bit more difficult because I had to cut that middle part out. So what I'm gonna do is do the same thing. I'm gonna go all the way around it. I'm also going to color on the inside of it, and let's see how that turns out. And there you go. Again, I'm saving all of these things right here. You have to be very careful now with this part here in the middle, because what can happen is if you're not careful and you pick it up like this or something, you're like, hey, look what I did, and then you're not careful, all of that dust over here, you see all that dust moving around? It can get inside of these areas that you were so careful to try and keep clean. So what you can do is, if that happens, you can sometimes go back in very gently with a brush and try and clean it up. But sometimes it's better to just say, you know what, accidents happen, I'm gonna go ahead and let it do what it wants to do, okay? Because sometimes when you try and go back in there and say, oh, I want to fix that, and you do this with your finger, see how it smudges and you can tell that someone tried to fix it, but it didn't really go so well? Yeah, I would just say sometimes it's better to leave it. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and continue on maybe experimenting with some of the shapes and colors, and maybe even start blending in, mixing colors over top of one another to create some new colors, and we'll see how that goes. All right, so go ahead and speed up the video, and you guys stay tuned and watch as I continue. Alright, boys and girls, so there you have it. Might take you a little bit of time. Definitely did for me. That's why I sped the video up. I didn't want to bore you with me just kind of going over some of the same areas there. But as you can tell, we filled that up. All of the different things that we had cut out, we used a lot of our chalk. I went back and, like I said, you can add and overlap different shapes. So I started off with a square for this one. Then I went back with a circle and I put that one over top. And you can even blend and mix in some of your colors. You can always go back in afterwards and even add in more color without having to trace, just by simple line work. So all I'm doing is simple lines that I'm kind of coloring here or there, and it's bringing out the color that was already there in the first place. Now you can mix and match colors, you can overlap and blend. Again, all of that is up to you. This is your art project. You can decide what colors, what shapes, and how and where you want to put them. Alright, so I hope you guys enjoyed this one. I certainly did. I'd love to see your guys' artwork. As always, stay tuned for more, and I hope you enjoyed. Bye-bye.